Welcome to the Media Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
Not much Star Wars news this week, Kenton, so we're going to do another Media Nerds.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for Star Wars podcasters, there's news every week. Like, they'll make the news, they'll wring it out of every little drop, but I didn't see anything that was, that made me think that it was like some massive discussion to be had.
I saw something that I think was very clickbaity, and I didn't click on it, and it said something along the lines of the Mandalorian Grogu is going to be the final chapter in that series, and they're not going to do season 4 of The Mandalorian. But I didn't click on it. It just seems like it's false. I'm not going to go for that. So anyway,
it's the most popular Star Wars that exists in the modern era. They will bring a wheelbarrow full of money, and if the movie's successful, then we'll have 100 movies with Mandalorian and Grogu. I think I don't think you can stop something that's popular.
Okay.
And I think it's hard to get something that's popular. As Star Wars has learned, it's hard. So if you have something that's good, you're gonna run with it. And we've got Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, who at their best are giving us the best Star Wars.
Yeah. But I wanted to tell you, this weekend I ran into one of our students at a bookstore. Works at a bookstore at a local mall, and I was I don't want to say I was embarrassed by the books I was buying, but I basically brought my teenagers in there and said pick out a book, and they wanted to buy a book. My daughter has been bugging me for the new Stephen King collection of short stories.
Oh, great!
Nice. You wanted it darker, he called it, because there's like a super dark short stories,
and that's named after a Leonard Cohen album.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
you
that.
Want it darker?
Oh, cool! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we picked that up. It was expensive. It was more than like a standard kind of hardcover. It was like $40, but I got a discount. I got a teacher's discount because they just asked me out of the blue. Our student wasn't at the counter, but they asked me out of the blue, and I said, yeah, I am. I teach in this, and I showed them my Red River College, and then had to check their paperwork to make sure that qualified me as a teacher. Because at Red River College, they teach all kinds of things. And then I said, she's like, what do you teach? And I said, creative communications. And then one of them went to the back room and brought out the student. And I was a little embarrassed about, not about the Stephen King book, because that's a really good book, but the other one I bought was my son Jack picked out a book about Trump.
Well, he wants to read it.
He does.
What are you going to do?
He wants to read about. It's fine. It's the one where he says he said he liked the subhead. It was how Trump squandered his father's fortune and made projected this image of success, basically.
That's a new book.
Yeah, it just came out. So he and I'm like, all right, that's fine. So I was a little embarrassed about that, but that's okay.
I'd be embarrassed if it was like the original, The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. Then I'd be embarrassed.
Well, that's
yeah.
Because that's what he was doing at the time, was like projecting that image of success with that, and it was ghostwritten. He didn't even write it, right?
Right, and the guy who wrote it is now anti-Trump and going on all the shows. Of course, just like everybody who's ever worked with him says, don't vote for him.
Speaking of world leaders, our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made an appearance on Stephen Colbert this week.
Yeah, he did.
Did you watch it?
I did.
Like live on the...
No,
okay. YouTube afterwards.
YouTube, there's 3 segments.
3 is a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I was surprised he did the full
7 minutes, 7 minutes, and 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Probably 20 minutes, like, when you round it up.
It's a good chunk of the show. Basically,
it is a big chunk. Yeah. It's a long discussion,
I think they realized who they had there. He was in town for the UN summit. And I find it interesting that he even said while he was on the show, he was there to reach Canadians as well as Americans. Like, there's no equivalent Canadian talk show for him to go on. Mike Bullard killed it for everybody. So
he could go to Mike Bullard's house and tell Mike Bullard about it, but it's not going to go very far.
Not many people are going to watch that. So he has to go on Colbert to talk about, and I think it's a very interesting, because I don't want to get too much into the politics here, but it's a very turbulent time for Canadian politics. Justin Trudeau is facing a lot of criticism as our Prime Minister, and so I guess part of this idea was he wanted to go on and try to do a little damage control and improve his image in the eyes of Canadians. Do you think he was successful at that?
I thought he did a good job.
Yeah.
I thought, as I was watching it, I thought that, it really was a master class in controlling the message, but it was also not a hostile interview by any stretch.
I think Colbert was pretty thrilled to have him on.
Oh, yeah. And if I'm a PR person, I love it. I think he's great. And he also says, I'm on this show because, I wouldn't be here if a fair number of Canadians didn't watch this show.
Yeah.
And they even had time for a little bit of Star Wars talk. before it was all over.
I thought that was interesting. First of all, that clip was hilarious. I'd never seen that clip before of him coming out of Empire Strikes Back.
No, Return of the Jedi.
Oh, Return of the Jedi,
Return
right.
of the Jedi is the best. Well, it's the best.
Quite good. Whatever he says, it sounds like it's just a miniature version of himself now. Like, it looks like the miniature version.
I did not see any evidence of the present man in the boy. Like, I was like...
I think the way he speaks and his, like, nature was in there a little bit.
Oh, maybe it is. Maybe I missed that, but I was like, that doesn't look anything like him. That could be a different kid, for all I know.
I think they cut apart, or he didn't go with it, because he also had, like, a photo behind the desk.
Yes.
And if you saw that.
Yeah.
And I think he was going to show the photo of him from a few years ago when he dressed up as Han Solo from Empire Strikes Back, and his wife dressed up as, former wife, dressed up as Leia. And they were both, like, themed after Empire Strikes Back costumes. And I think he decided not to, or maybe Justin said not to, because they're not married anymore. They got divorced. And
that was so under the radar that in the U.S. that might not even have...
No, but maybe he didn't want to bring it up. He didn't want to say, oh, that's my ex-wife. Like, that's like just something that you just avoided at all costs. So they just went with here's you coming out of the movie with your dad.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That was cool. That was fun.
Yeah, and then he asked so of course he goes, Return of the Jedi is the best one of all. And then the adult Justin Trudeau was like, no, it's Empire Strikes Back, which is interesting. And of course, I saw Empire Strikes Back. I mentioned on the last podcast
with Justin Trudeau, no joke.
And that seeing it at the symphony with the symphony. So it was funny to see him say that, because after I saw it with the symphony, I was like, maybe it is the best. Like I watched, because I always like episode 4, but after I saw it with a crowd full of people, once again, I was blown away by the storytelling. You sort of forget how good it is and how young everybody's in it, like little baby Han Solo. So when Trudeau on Colbert said that's the best one, I was primed to agree with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was. I just thought it was an interesting choice to go on, and they talked a lot about, like, they talked about the differences between Canadians and Americans, and he made a couple of digs about, like, universal health care and that kind of stuff, which I thought was funny. He also, like, I think he almost got himself into a making fun of American situation where he backed himself out really quickly, where he's like, I'm American. He kind of did a bit of a voice there, and then I think he realized he's like, oh my God, he's just almost calling them dumb, which is, something that's easier for us to fall into.
When you look at Trump, I mean, Trump is tied or whatever, and you just go, like, you really have to be disconnected from everything to really go along with that. I don't know. It's very odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my friend is going, yesterday he texted me, and he said, I'm going to go see Billy Joel in Las Vegas. I was like, what's the date of that? He goes, November 7th. And I went, is that before or after the election? And he goes, it's before. And then I looked it up. I was like, no, it's after. So I said, enjoy the Civil War when you're down there. Enjoy it. The Vegas Strip being taken apart piece by piece.
Hey, listen, I just heard a reference in a podcast to Billy Joel playing in the Soviet Union in the 80s.
Oh,
He's
yeah?
the first artist to play in the Soviet Union, and now he can just be the first artist to play in the Civil War.
That's right. He'll be the first one. And basically...
In the new United States, whatever that becomes after the United States collapses.
And basically, if war breaks out, you want to be where Billy Joel is, because he'll have no part of it. He'll be safe.
Well, he's just going to add more lyrics to We Didn't Start the Fire.
We did start the fire. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, my God, he needs to update it.
For sure. I assume somebody's done that, hey?
Somebody did do it.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was like some crappy Blink-182 style. I don't know that it was Blink-182, but it was like something like that.
In that
some
style.
41.
It was like a cover of We Didn't Start the Fire, but updated with modern references,
yes.
right? Yeah.
It was a punk band with a name and a number after the name. Some 41, Blink-182. One of those.
Okay.
Yeah. One of those. Creed 111. No, Creed doesn't have any.
Have you been watching Agatha All Along?
No. No.
No.
And I don't think I ever will.
Oh, really? Why not? Not interested. You're done with the Marvel stuff?
I love the actor on that show. I think she's great, but all of the awkward humor that I've seen in the trailers and stuff with it just doesn't, it looks to me terrible based on the trailer.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong. It's not terrible, I would say, but it's not great. I'm
you watched it?
I've been watching.
How many episodes?
3 episodes are out at this point. They dropped 2 last week, and then one dropped yesterday. And I would say it's very formulaic. It's very cookie cutter. You can see what they're doing. They're like getting the team together. They have to go along and get all these witches. And they have this very convenient, the witch's road, which is a completely made up thing for this story. That's very generic and not very interesting to me. But they all go on the road and they have to go down the road and face some challenges. I face these trials. Like, it's very much the same as everything else we've seen. All the character types are also very very stereotypical and cliche. And honestly, I don't think the best character is what's her name from that 70s show? The mom from that 70s show.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Aubrey.
Aubrey Plaza's barely in it. She's in it like for the first episode. She hasn't come back since then. So I don't know what's going on with her.
That's hilarious.
She seriously, I barely see her in this.
She had to go shoot White Lotus for a few episodes. That's right.
No, but yeah, the other stuff, like the actors are fine. It's just like so generic, and it's just so like, okay, we're gonna follow our mission. We're gonna follow these steps. We're gonna do these things, and then we're all gonna experience this stuff together and react to it. And let's move on to the next challenge now. And that's what the show is. And it doesn't feel like as interesting. They're trying to kind of like, there's a scene where they're making a potion and she's like making it in a sink, and they're like trying to like, oh, we can use a sous vide to heat up the water and all this stuff. Like they're trying to make it a modernized witches kind of a thing. And I don't know, it's not quite the same. It doesn't quite do it for me. It's not great.
Well, see, I was hoping that because my favorite Marvel TV show has been the Vision and Scarlet Witch.
Which is this...
Or WandaVision, pardon me.
It is kind of a sequel to that, because it is the same character.
Yes, but I thought the first whatever that is, 4 episodes where they're stuck in TV, sitcoms and whatnot, I thought that was among the best Marvel ever made. And I thought, Catherine Hahn, that's her name, right?
Catherine Hahn, yes.
I thought she was particularly good in those early episodes, she played it exactly right. So I was like, oh, I'll take some more of that, please. But I didn't like how that series ended. I thought it just the usual kind of crappy CGI fest or whatever. Yep. And so when I saw the trailer, I was kind of disappointed. Like, I know there's a CSI that they set that up in the trailer. She thinks she's working in CSI or something.
Like 5 minutes in the first episode, and that's it.
So I think
is that the trailer? I didn't see the trailer.
Oh, the trailer basically gives that whole storyline away, and then shows her when she's not in that storyline.
Oh, so it gives away the whole premise of the thing.
Yeah, so the whole premise. And what is that, the whole first episode?
Well, it's like the beginning of the episode. Yeah. I didn't see the trailer, so I didn't know. We went into this cold, and it makes it seem like, oh, we're in WandaVision again, and they're going to do like a bunch of different genres of films. Because, she's in a cop procedural. Mm-hmm. I would say it's more along the lines of like a Hill Street Blues or NYPD Blue. And she's like a tough cop. She's going through and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, the spell is broken and she snaps out of it, and it turns out she's living in Westview, which is all the same people. Like, first of all, I'm thinking, wait a minute, are all these people under a spell still? Like from WandaVision, are they still like under this spell that because there's a reference to Wanda put you under a spell. So Wanda put her under a spell to make her think she was in a CSI show, but she's not. But she's going around her house acting like it. Like she's talking to her neighbor, and he's like, "Oh, you seem to be acting strange lately." Like, but they don't care. They just let her do whatever, and they don't interact with her until she snaps out of it, and all of a sudden they're interacting with her. It was just very weak, and it's a tease that was disappointing. I'm like, "Oh, they're not going to do this now." It was just like to get us into the beginning of this episode, and obviously a tease for the trailer to make people think this series is something it's not.
Right.
So that's disappointing.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to hear that, because I think I had high hopes for it. If I heard that it was great, I would watch it, but I haven't heard that. And if anything, I watched a couple YouTubers review it who are generally like, I know Critical Drinker was going to hate it, and he did, but there's a couple sort of nicer YouTubers who I thought would give it the benefit of the doubt, and they did not. They also said it's like kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
And I don't need any more disappointment from Marvel or Star Wars for that matter.
Well, and I want to say this is not Acolyte bad. This is not like it's a serviceable show. It ticks all the boxes for a show, right? So they do things well, but it's just like so generic and so mediocre. I can't become interested in it. And Marvel, they need a hit. You're right. They don't have anything. Although I would say they dropped a trailer for, what was that one they dropped this week? Thunderbolts. Did you see that one?
I heard about it, but I didn't see it.
A movie, I think next year it's coming out. And this is going to bring together like the Winter Soldier. It's kind of like a Suicide Squad idea where there are a bunch of villains that are going to be superheroes. So there's a few, and people from the last couple of series as well. Like one of the people from the Hawkeye series, I think, is in it. And I think so they're kind of tying that stuff together a little bit with this. So that seems interesting to me, but I don't know. This is not making me want to watch that.
Well, coming off of Deadpool and Wolverine, they got the world by the ass again, like, okay, here we go. And so it's disappointing to take a step back again.
I don't even think of Deadpool and Wolverine as being in the same areas. I think that is due to Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman,
Right.
and that is it. And no, they will never create another episode.
But they
movie
are
like
in the multiverse there.
I know, but they are not going to be involved in the making of any other movies except for their own movies. So only their movies are going to be good, right? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but that's the most pessimistic and depressing outcome.
That's what we've seen.
I know you're right. That's the outcome we're seeing, and it's I guess it's just depressing. It's not pessimistic. It's depressing,
right?
Because coming off of something that regained interest in your franchise, like you want to build off. I think that's what Mandalorian and Grogu are going to do for Star Wars. It is going to, in theory, if it's good, and I love it, so I think it will be good, and I like the people involved in it. Maybe we're going to go back to Hoth. That could be super amazing if we do that. Like, I think that could do the same thing. It doesn't take lots to reinvigorate interest in Star Wars. You just give it, like, the Andor season 2 will probably be kick-ass. It'll probably be great. Like,
so
it doesn't
do the
take
same thing for Marvel,
I
guess.
It's I hate it when they play it straight down the middle and it's just safe.
Yeah, that's what this is.
Yeah,
for sure.
it's no good when they do that. But it's also no good when you do something like The Acolyte. Like that to me, that wasn't playing it unsafe. That was just bad writing.
Exactly. Now, you've been watching The Penguin on HBO.
And by
Max.
that, there's only one episode.
Okay, and how's that been?
Well, here's the funny thing. I wasn't going to watch it because I didn't like the Batman. I didn't like that movie.
Oh, you didn't like that movie?
No.
I loved it, actually.
I thought it was... I couldn't believe the good reviews it had. I was... Like, there's elements that I like, of course, but overall, I was just... Like, I thought the Riddler was so beyond tame that I said they should have called him the Wordler.
Yeah, you love that joke.
But that's... I've got all these riddles that only a genius can master. Like, if the people in the audience are like, yeah, I know the answer to this riddle... Try harder. Like let's get some harder riddles. And I also thought I did not care for Pattinson as Batman. Okay. I thought he was who cares. I thought there's a lot of who cares in there. And then in the closing of the film, spoiler alert, you hear the Joker's voice.
Right.
So he's talking to the Joker through the prison wall. You're just, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like I just didn't care for it.
I guess so, but one of the highlights of the film is Colin Farrell as the Penguin. I mean, I think he's really good. He's unrecognizable. Like,
yes,
we were watching it with my girlfriend, and I said, "You know who that is?" And she's like, "No, who is that?" I'm like, "Colin Farrell." She's like, "What?" And he just completely transforms himself. So how is he in the series?
So you cannot see any evidence of Colin Farrell in that actor. It's in that character. It's insane. I don't get it. I don't understand. How is the makeup like that so perfect? And then you watch the end of A League of Their Own, and there's Gina Davis, and she looks like she's a mannequin.
20 years ago or more.
Yeah, but we still see that style now.
Yeah,
where you're just like, or Billy Crystal, one of my favorites, Billy Crystal, Mr. Saturday Night,
yeah.
And he looks like he's like maybe 55 at the end of the film. He's like, see what I did there?
Yeah.
Funny papers. Like you're just like you just sound like an old person, but you still look like Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
So he looks amazing, and I have to say. I heard it's good. I heard it was good. So like, okay, HBO always surprises me. I always think I'm done, and then they drag me back in with some new show. Like White Lotus, there's another example of one where I was like, no interest, and then I watched it, I was like, holy shit, this is really good. This is well written. So The Penguin, once again, it's surprisingly good, but it's not Batman. And in fact, it has, like, what does it have to do with Batman is a good question. I think people who love Batman aren't going to like The Penguin. And people who don't like Batman will like The Penguin.
It's the same problem as Gotham had, right? Gotham was a series. Now, I liked Gotham for a while. I thought it was pretty good. It was interesting. But it did have Batman as a kid. That one had. Does this one have Batman at all? Is there any reference to Batman at all? Or
here's the funny thing. They start with like here's what's been like recap. Here's what's been happening.
In the world of Batman?
The Riddler flooded Gotham
the movie.
City.
Okay, they recap the movie. Okay.
Batman rescued some people. And they say, you hear, Batman did it. Do you see him? No. Batman rescued people is what you hear. And he's never mentioned again or seen throughout the rest of the episode. So it's a weird way to start a show which, by all evidence, has no, like, everybody knows Batman. It's on the news, but he never comes up in conversation.
So this takes place after the movie, after the Batman.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So and it's the Penguin taking over from Maroni. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Something like that? Yeah.
But he, it's The Sopranos. Let's be honest. This is HBO going, we can't have The Sopranos anymore. but we'll call it the Penguin, and it'll be the Sopranos. And honestly, I think Farrell is playing James Gandolfini in the role.
Oh, okay.
I think but it's really good.
Yeah.
But you're kind of like, this is James Gandolfini. Stuff happens. He goes to visit his mother. You're like, that's what Tony Soprano does. He goes visits his mother. His mother's overbearing and critical. That's Tony Soprano. Somebody gets out of the nut house, out of Arkham Asylum, and you're like, this is going to be terrible. This person isn't cured. Like, oh no. Just like in Sopranos, people get out of prison, and you're like, oh my God, this person's a psycho. So there's all this stuff going on, and I have to say, there's a couple elements where I'm like, I don't know. I'm a little worried. I don't know. A couple plot things that I was like, I don't know. I'm a little worried. But overall, I'm in. I think it's a limited series, I think.
Yeah.
Unless it's super popular, in which case it might not be. But it's good. It's got me, and I hope they don't, I actually think Batman showing up could really ruin the show.
Yeah.
The way they've set it up.
Because I liked the Batman. I didn't like it at first. I agreed with some of what you said. The thing about the Riddler is his riddles are always easy to solve for Batman. Like, if you go back to the Frank Gorshin riddles, like, come on. Like, it's really like making them hard to solve is not the point. The point is the Riddler can't speak clearly. He also always has to speak in riddles. It doesn't matter how easy it is to solve them. My daughter is a big fan of this movie too, by the way. She loves that actor who plays the Riddler. What's his name again?
Oh, that kid.
She loves him
that
so
guy.
much.
If I'm older than the actor, I can boss him around as far as I'm concerned.
Anyway,
yeah, I know who that guy. He's also in. He's in some great films.
Oh yeah, Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah. There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he's excellent in that,
my God. Yeah, that's a great movie.
Still can't remember his name, but that's okay. We'll move on.
No.
So that I probably won't watch that. I'm not really. I don't subscribe to HBO right now. I'm not looking to renew that subscription anytime
if
soon.
your daughter likes the movie, might she want to see it?
She will. If the Riddler was in it, she'd want to see it, but she was not a fan of the Colin Farrell part of that movie. So I think that, no, she won't want to see that. And I think that if they can't tie in Batman somehow, then it's not going to do well. Because Batman is the central, and this is also part of the my whole overall thing of too much Batman. We have too much Batman.
Yeah.
Like just too many stories related to Batman. We need to
it's exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's like ease up on the Batman, Warner Brothers. You have other properties you could start looking at.
Even Michael Keaton returning to the role didn't seem to reinvigorate interest in that character, which is weird because I actually liked him in that role. I like the Flash. I'm the only person on earth who liked the Flash.
Okay.
But I thought Michael Keaton was great in it. It made me more interested in Batman more than the Batman did. Yeah.
The Batman, I think, did that for the younger generation. They kind of feel like it's their Batman movie, so I think that's... And I guess they're doing two more of those movies, aren't they, with Pattinson?
I think that's...
And Matt Reeves
that was the plan.
Anyway.
Is it Pattinson or Pattinson?
I don't know. It's Pattinson. Pattinson. Yeah, with an N, yes.
Yeah, that's another young actor younger than me who I don't care about. But was he in Hunger Games? Who's in Hunger Games? I don't care about them.
No, that's a different guy. He was in the Twilight movies.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, it's so easy to mix up Twilight and Hunger Games
is,
when you're my age.
But he has since disavowed that. He hates that he was in them. He doesn't like those movies at all. And he's actually a pretty good actor. I've seen him in a couple different things, and he's been very good. So the last thing I want to talk to you about today is this new Netflix deal, this new kind of structure they're trying to sell on talent, on their producers. They're trying to change the way they make things in Netflix, and I'll explain this a little bit more. So what they've done up to now is Netflix will just basically drive a dump truck full of money up to your house and empty it out. Here's money to produce a show. You pitch them the show. Say you're Barack and Michelle Obama, who've done this, or Harry and Meghan. They've done this too. Although Harry and Meghan have not really made anything, but Michelle and Barack have produced some stuff. So say, okay, here's the budget. Like you put together a budget. Here's how much money we need, and they say, yes, here's all the money you need. Produce this, and then we own everything on the back end. Like we own the IP. We own the rights to the show. We can make sequels to it. We can do whatever we want to it, and that's how the deal has gone. Well, they want to change that now because too many of what they're making is failing. They're making too much crap, and they don't know. It seems like they don't know what's good and what's not good. So the new deal they want to make is they want to say, okay, well, you take less money up front, I think 30% less up front, and then we'll give you more on the back end, similar to the way they do that for films. They do like structure box office, whatever, and that kind of thing. and so they're trying to sell this to the and they're saying if it's successful, you'll get more money. So if it's successful, we'll pay this much, and they get a structure in there for. And I guess they have a way of determining how successful something is on Netflix. Like it's very weird on Netflix to be doing this because they don't have like a definite revenue stream of if this movie does well, it makes so much money. Netflix just makes money on their subscriptions, and that's it. So it's a very strange thing to propose, and people are not liking it. They do not want less money up front to do these things, right? And they don't want the idea like we don't really believe in this. You'd think if Netflix is approving it, they would believe in the story, and I think they're just like. They don't know what works anymore, and they're trying to. They still want to be able to throw shit at the wall to see what works,
right?
But they don't want to pay for the shit up front.
That's very interesting, but that's the problem with streaming, which is, or in the early days, Netflix would have we have a new show, and everybody with Netflix would watch that show. It was easy, but that's not how it works now. Because every time you log in now, there's 50 new shows.
Exactly,
and so you are forcing me. Time is not limitless, so you're forcing me to pick and choose, and by definition something's not going to be watched, maybe something that I would really enjoy.
Well, but I think there's more on Netflix that I don't enjoy than I do. Netflix has become so much crap. Their reality TV is awful. Like there's so much stuff on there that doesn't even come across my radar, honestly, because they just make it and put it out there to see if it does well. And I've heard also stories from actors and producers who made deals with Netflix and talked about like they're always thinking about the bingeability of a show, and they basically think about all of their stuff as being like people are going to binge this and watch it all in one sitting, which I do not do, and I don't know how much people really do that anymore. I know it was super popular back in the day, but I don't think people like sit and binge for like 6-7 hours at a time anymore.
It's more common that. I mean, Netflix will release a whole show at once, sometimes Prime, but now it's becoming more common to let it. Drip method,
just like the Penguin, right?
Yeah, so it's harder you can't binge watch something when you don't have it all at once. And the other thing is, time is always of the essence. All of us have as I say, limited time, and it's hard to sit down for 14 hours or something, right? To binge watch something, especially when I say to students, I always say it as a joke every year. It's become a joke. Where I'm like, do you guys watch Casablanca? And of course they don't. Do you watch anything black and white? No. Do you watch anything that wasn't created this year? No. Like, it's almost unheard of. And it's because there's so much new content coming out. Like I used to go back and watch all the classic films so I would know what everybody was talking about. And so, but I don't think people do that anymore.
Well, that stuff's not available on streaming services.
Right.
Netflix does not have a good selection of older movies.
It's too bad.
And no kidding. And the ones that should have, like the ones that like the MGMs and the ones who had made these movies back in the day, are not putting them up there for some reason. A lot of that stuff. Every time I go to look up a movie, other than ones that kind of come up on Tubi every once in a while, like Tubi just put out a bunch of Marilyn Monroe movies. 7 Year Itch is up there, and Diamonds Are Girls, but whatever that one is. Gentlemen's Prefer Blonde, is that what it is?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that one. Anyway, a couple of those Marilyn Monroe movies, but they're not available anywhere else. And if I wanted to rent something like that, it would be available to rent, but not on a streaming service. So that kind of stuff is just not available. So I think, and people just go with the easiest thing, which is like the streaming service I'm already paying for, which is Netflix. Go on there and then try and find something to watch. It's so hard to find.
But it's kind of weird because they're leaving it all to TCM on TV. They're leaving all those classic movies.
Turner Classic Movies.
Yeah,
do they have a streaming service?
Maybe in the U.S., but not in Canada.
Oh, I would love that. That would be awesome.
I don't believe it's in Canada. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so.
Okay.
But that's kind of what they've done. They've kind of left it to them to curate it and to sort of. But I'm sure the TCM audience is nice and aged. I don't think I don't hear any young people going, I need TCM to watch my classic films.
No. And again, they're not seeking that stuff out. I do tend to watch for at thrift stores. I look for those kind of movies that I haven't seen. I hadn't seen the 7 Year Itch until recently.
Oh, right? I have on my watch list, I've had it for years, Lover Come Back with Rock Hudson, because it takes place in the advertising world.
Oh.
And I try to see every movie about advertising. It is just, like, for a while it was on iTunes for like the classic $34 rental or something where you're just like, I don't think so. Like, this will come up, but it hasn't come up.
Oh.
So I just have it sitting in the watch list.
What's it called again?
Lover Come Back.
Okay, I'm going to keep an eye out. I'll look for it on...
I just want, and once again, it might not even be a good movie. I don't care. I just want to see the
movie about advertising.
Yes.
What's your favorite movie about advertising?
Oh, man. There's so many.
I think of Crazy People. That's my favorite
one. Crazy People. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's the one.
How to Get Ahead in Advertising from the 80s. The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit with why can't I think of his name? Oh, ridiculous. But anyway, there's some good classics, awesome. And some of them are better than others. But this is one I've not seen, and so I'm just waiting for it to eventually become available. But actually, maybe I'll save it for my recommendation, actually. Right. I was going to say something else about TCM. No, I'm going to save it for the recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, though, I have one more thing that I remembered I wanted to talk to you about, and that is Cineplex here in Canada was fined like $40 million or something like that, like a big amount because of their sketchy service charges. And I agree. I was so happy when I heard this. I'm like, yes, this was so sketchy, and I was so upset about it because basically what they did is they added a $1.50 service charge to their app. So you basically charge you extra for buying the ticket on the app as opposed to buying it in the theater, like going to the theater and buying it on their little kiosk. And I hated that because like the first time I saw that, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to buy it at the theater. And I went to the theater and the movie was sold out that I wanted to see. So the one time there was a movie I wanted to see and it was sold out. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to buy it in advance now. Everybody buys in advance. That is the default setting for the theater. You buy your tickets in advance, you go in. So I think a lot of people didn't realize, and they weren't upfront enough about that charge, about that $1.50 charge. It was kind of hidden. So, and they call it drip pricing, where they don't let you know the full charge of the thing until it's too late, till you've already agreed to pay for it. So yeah, Cineplex got fined big time for that, and I love that. I think it's awesome.
Yes, and they deserve to. And speaking of, yesterday I got a letter in the mail from API Alarms going, call us before October 1st. That's like 2 days because it's a long weekend. Yeah. And or we'll start charging you $9.99 a month, a nominal fee of $9.99 a month more than what you're already paying for your alarm service. And I was like, this is insane. Like, and they list like the benefits, and it's just nothing anybody would ever want, kind of thing. And so it's like, so you have 2 days to call this 1-800 number or whatever. And so I tried calling the minute I got the letter, and it's like, there's nobody here to answer your call. Leave a message at the beep. Like, you guys are bastards. Ugh. It's the same thing. There's more and more of that happening. Yeah. Like mystery charges, or we're charging you and you have to tell us that you don't want this.
It's a cash grab, and I think it's obvious. At the time, I remember when they announced the fee, I thought, well, they're just not making enough money at the theater, like from their regular ticket sales, that they have to add this fee. Or I don't know if they were trying to like encourage people to buy tickets at the theater. Like, I don't know what the reason is they needed more money, but they really should, like, there's no added, like, it's on them to make it easier for us to buy tickets. So this whole like pay for the convenience of ordering this online, it's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. I don't know anybody else that does that except for maybe like, well, there's all kinds of fees in Skip the Dishes and stuff like that, but whatever. I don't pay attention to that.
That's the world we live in, and we are being, like, we spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year on mysteries that we can't solve ourselves, you know? Even bundling services and things like that. Nobody can fully break down what their phone bill is all about. You know, things like that. Air travel, like things like that, where you're just, I give up. I can't, nobody could figure it out.
You still have cable, Kenton?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking.
Yeah, I still have cable. But I signed a 3-year contract.
Oh, no.
No, but that was like about 3 years ago.
Oh, there you go.
So I think, what month is it? I don't think it's till November or something, and then I'm at 3 years. And then I will rethink it. Yeah, exactly. Actually, that might coincide nicely
with the election. Okay.
And I'm still paying an extra $4 a month for CNBC for no apparent reason. It's on the bill or whatever, and I'm like, do I have to make the call for $4? That's the problem. The problem is I got a phone. I got to wait on hold. It's just too much.
Exactly.
So I'll pay the $4 to save time.
Oh, boy.
But it's very irritating, yeah.
Okay, let's get to some recommendations. Yeah. I watched a movie this week. I have to talk about this movie because it's not to recommend it necessarily, because you've probably seen Mac and Me. Have you seen Mac and Me?
I've heard of it, but I've not seen it.
Never seen it? Okay.
Well, I know. I kind of know what it is. It's E.T. except with McDonald's.
Yeah. Well, more E.T. with Coca-Cola. I think that was the hook there, because they looked at, and this is like years later. E.T. was like 1982, and this was 88. It's like 6 years later. Wow. I thought that was a long time. I'm not surprised that they tried to make an E.T. ripoff. They always do that in Hollywood. They're always trying to make a ripoff of whatever, low budget knockoff version of something to make money. And so Mac and Me was that. The worst part of this, and so you might, if you've never seen it, it might be worth watching just for fun. Because I think at its heart, it's actually a pretty good gang of kids movie as far as these kids kind of come together, just like in E.T., and kind of rally around the alien to help him find his family. But the aliens just look so bad. And not even Mac. I'm talking about the other aliens. There's 3 other aliens in this that get like sucked in. They all get sucked into a space probe that then goes back to Earth, and then they get out of space. It's very hilarious. And so, but yeah, it was just the effects are really bad. But the thing about the Coca-Cola that I found interesting is that there's every shot, there's a Coca-Cola can somewhere, and they always drink Coca-Cola. And every time they refer to it, they don't refer to it as Coke. They say, get him a drink. He needs a drink. And they basically give him a can of Coca-Cola, and he drinks it. And these aliens come from a planet in which they like stick straws in the ground and suck liquid out of the ground. That's how they eat. Their mouths are like really basically straw-sucking mouths. And that's how they eat. And so I guess Coca-Cola tastes exactly like their food from home. I guess that's what they're trying to say. And so the McDonald's part of it was, the McDonald's is funny because it's got this like spontaneous choreographed dance scene in the middle of a McDonald's for no reason. And it's just hilarious.
Well, for reasons of product placement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but I mean, you could just have the scene take place in McDonald's and that's fine. You know what I mean? It's weird. They're like, okay, we can't say Coca-Cola too much. We can't make people realize we're product placing Coca-Cola, but we're going to go crazy in this McDonald's scene. So, I don't know.
Oh, that's great.
Anyway, Mac and Me, I recommend it for the laughs only. It's not actually a good movie.
And it's from, what year did you say?
1988. And honestly, I don't even know if it's available on Netflix or anything. I bought it on DVD at a thrift store. So
might have to borrow it from you.
All right, there you go.
That might be the only way I can see it.
Okay.
So, yeah. So my recommendation is going to be, there's an episode, Slate. Oh, pardon me. I keep hitting this mic. I'm sorry. Sorry, everybody. Slate Decoder Ring Podcast.
Okay.
It's called, from Slate Magazine, and online magazine, Slate Magazine, but it's online. Mm-hmm. And they sort of solve mysteries and stuff on Decoder Ring, or explain like a trend or that kind of thing. And this week's is about Warren Beatty and his obsession with Dick Tracy. Because he started as Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
But there's these weird videos that show up every 10 years with Warren Beatty talking about pomegranates in Dick Tracy character, like dressed in the outfit, like an A-list actor, still dressing like Dick Tracy, talking about weird stuff that doesn't make any sense. They run it on TCM, and he's interviewed by and I looked it up yesterday on YouTube, and they're there. You can watch these weird videos. And it's called Dick Tracy Special. And you watch it, you're like, what is going on? Like, the last one was a year ago, where he shows up on TCM and he's interviewed by Leonard Maltin and Ben Mankiewicz. And you're like, what is happening with this weird? And it turns out that this is Warren Beatty trying to stick it to the film studio by keeping the rights of Dick Tracy.
Oh.
And apparently in the contract, it's like, if there's a TV special, so they call it Dick Tracy Special, that he retains the rights for another 10 years. So
that's hilarious.
Yes. So it's a great podcast, and it's a great podcast about how Hollywood works, how Warren Beatty holds a grudge for 40 years. And apparently the grudge is that his movie came out after Batman, Dick Tracy, and so everybody's like, Batman made $400 million, Dick Tracy only made $100 million. But in Warren Beatty's mind, that's a huge success.
It was.
And he wanted to make a sequel, and they wouldn't let him. So all of these Dick Tracy specials are just him like sticking it to the studio for another 10 years
That's
at
funny.
a time. Yeah.
I remember seeing that movie in the theater and liking it. I thought
too.
Dick Tracy was good. It's a very different vibe than, it's much more
Yes.
comic booky than Batman is. And I think people obviously will compare the two because they came out right in the same time. But that's interesting. I want to see this now. And so how old is he now? He's got to be in his 80s.
Oh yeah. So in the
up
last one a year ago, he's like he's an older guy.
Yeah.
He's not even doing many films anymore, and there he is.
I don't think he has done any films. Like, I haven't seen him since he made the mistake of the Oscars a couple years ago, right?
Right, exactly. So it's him being interviewed by Ben Mankiewicz and Leonard Maltin. Leonard Maltin, who looks like he's 900 years old, by the way.
Of course.
And he's on Zoom, and they're interviewing him on Zoom. And Ben Mankiewicz is kind of like, this is like, why is this so weird? And like, well, how come the interview you did with Leonard Maltin 10 years ago is so weird? Like, that's sort of that's kind of meta.
Yeah.
But it is weird to watch it. But at the same time, you're like, oh, this is kind of funny when you know that he's sticking it to the film studio.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
That's funny. I'm going to check that out. All right.
Yeah.
Great. That's a great recommendation. Sorry, the podcast was called, again.
It's Slate Decoder Ring.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. That's going to do it for this episode of The Meanie Nerds. I'm Dan Vadabunker.
And I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the door hit you on the ass.